Welcome to Rise Beyond Average. If you are listening to this message right now, your heart may still be carrying questions. You may still be trying to make sense of what ended. You may still be replaying the moment something shifted, the moment something left, the moment a door closed and you were left standing with silence where certainty used to be. A person left, a season ended, a connection broke, a plan failed, a path changed, and you have been calling it loss. But today, heaven is giving you a different word. A word that brings clarity, a word that removes confusion, a word that releases you from regret. It was not a loss, it was a release. Not everything that exits is stolen, not everything that disappears is failure, not everything that ends is punishment. Sometimes God removes what is restricting you, sometimes He releases what is draining you, sometimes He closes what is limiting you, and it can hurt, not because it was right, but because it was familiar. So breathe, stay here, let this word touch the root. Loss feels like being robbed. Release feels like being freed. Loss feels like something was taken. Release feels like something was removed. And the reason many people struggle after release is because release often comes without warning. You did not prepare. You did not plan. You did not see the ending coming. One moment you were building, hoping, trusting, investing. The next moment you were adjusting, grieving, questioning. And because you didn't control the exit, your mind keeps trying to rewrite the story. If I did this differently, if I said that differently, if I tried harder, if I stayed quieter, if I moved faster. But some exits are not about your mistakes. They are about God's mercy, because God can see what you cannot see. He can see what that connection would become. He can see what that environment would do to you. He can see what that season would eventually cost you. And He will not allow you to build your destiny on something that cannot carry your future. So He releases it, not to ruin you, to protect you, not to shame you, to preserve you. Not to weaken you, to refine you. Some people were in your life for a season, not a destiny. Some doors were opportunities, not assignments. Some plans were ideas, not instructions. Some environments were comfortable, not aligned. And comfort is the most dangerous thing when it becomes a cage. Because when you stay too long in what is familiar, you begin to call limitation peace. You begin to call stagnation stability. You begin to call compromise wisdom. But God loves you too much to let you settle. So He releases what would have restricted your next level. That is why it left. It wasn't just ending. It was clearing space. It wasn't just closing. It was making room. It wasn't just loss. It was release. Why God does it suddenly? This is where people get offended. Because many times, release is sudden. No gradual conversation. No gentle transition. No slow drifting apart. Just one moment and everything changes. And you ask, why would God do it like that? Because if God explained it before the release, you might have resisted. If He showed you all the reasons, you might have negotiated. If He gave you time to emotionally prepare, you might have built excuses. Some attachments cannot be slowly loosened. They must be broken. Not because God is harsh, but because the attachment is deep. There are some things you would never let go of if God didn't pull you out. There are some connections you would keep entertaining because you remember the good moments, even though the overall pattern is draining. There are some doors you would keep knocking because you want it to work, even though it was never assigned to open. So God releases you suddenly, not to confuse you, but to prevent delay. Because destiny requires movement. And if you hesitate too long, you start building altars to old seasons. You start romanticizing what God already judged. You start revisiting what God already removed. So the release happens decisively. And it hurts at first, but later you realize God didn't take something good away. He took something that was quietly stealing you, stealing your focus, stealing your peace, stealing your confidence, stealing your time, stealing your obedience. You couldn't see it clearly then because you were emotionally invested. But now clarity is coming. The emotional conflict after release, your emotions do something strange. You miss what you complained about. You long for what drained you. You remember the comfort while forgetting the cost. That is not weakness. That is human. Because your mind attaches to patterns. Even painful patterns become familiar. Even unhealthy cycles become normal. So when release happens, it feels like disorientation. You are not just grieving the thing. You are grieving the routine. You are grieving the identity you held inside that season. You are grieving the picture you had of how life was supposed to go. And that grief makes you tempted to chase what left, to call, to return, to rebuild, to reopen. But hear this carefully. Do not chase what God released. Because what is released is not meant to be recovered. It is meant to be replaced. Some people confuse release with rejection. But release is not God rejecting you. It is God redirecting you. Release is heaven saying, This is not your portion. Release is heaven saying, this is not your lane. Release is heaven saying, this is not where you will bloom. And sometimes the most loving thing God can do is remove you from what you keep trying to make work. What was really happening while you thought you were losing? While you thought you were losing, God was cleansing your environment. He was separating you from hidden resistance. He was cutting off silent distractions. He was removing weight you didn't even know you were carrying. Because weight is not always obvious. Sometimes weight looks like a relationship that drains you slowly. Sometimes weight looks like a job that steals your joy quietly. Sometimes weight looks like a friendship that keeps you small through subtle discouragement. Sometimes weight looks like a habit that comforts you but weakens your discipline. And the scariest weight is the weight you defend. The thing you say, I can't live without. The thing you say, I need this to be okay. The thing you say, if this ends, I won't survive. That is the very thing God often releases you from. Because destiny cannot be built on dependency. It must be built on alignment. God is not trying to make you empty. He is trying to make you free. Space is a sign. After release, there is space. And space can feel lonely at first. Because you were used to noise, used to constant interaction, used to always having something to hold. So when there is space, your mind panics. But space is not punishment. Space is preparation. Space is where new things can enter. Space is where new habits can form. Space is where clarity grows. Space is where your spirit can breathe again. God does not remove without purpose. He does not subtract without intention. He created space because something better must fit. Not better in your emotions, better in your destiny. Because some things felt good, but were not good for you. Some things were exciting, but were not assigned. Some things were comfortable, but were not aligned. So space is God's mercy. Space is evidence that heaven is rearranging. Say this in your spirit. This space is preparation, not punishment. In the next part, we will go deeper into how to stop replaying regret after release, why what left was actually protecting you, the signs that God is replacing what was removed, how to walk confidently without reopening old doors, final prophetic declarations, and a closing prayer that seals your next season.